Father, Son, and Violin. Chapter 10, the second stage of my violin learning. I decided to be a professional violinist by stimulation. If, say, my original intention of learning the violin was partly hoping to impress my father and gain his respect, after the incident, burning my home and harming the people around me, to learn the violin became only for my love of the violin, though a portion of the fondness to show off still remained. Now when I think back, the words, love for the violin, are not strong enough. More precisely, by that time, violin was the only thing and everything to me, my life interest and purpose, life content, spiritual consignment, and more importantly, a road or a bridge that led to the prospect of a better life. Burned my hand-copied music notes, I could hand-copy again. Not allowed to practice violin at home, I could go out and hide myself at my secret place close to the riverbank, indulging in self-inebriation. But one major problem was, I had no money to buy the violin strings, particularly the A string, which broke very easily. I remember an A string cost 20 fun RMB, the same amount as 2 lunches. I received 10 fun lunch money from Mom daily. Here I by no means blame my mother. In fact, it was not easy to give me 10 fun per day from her income. In that period, if I broke a string, I would go out of the classroom and play basketball during lunch hour. Sacrificing lunch to buy strings was soon discovered by my classmate girls. One day, Oh Youngmin called me back to the classroom from the sports ground, saying that there was something in my drawer waiting for me. I opened my drawer, a bowl of steaming hot wonton appeared in front of my eyes. I felt awkward and embarrassed, but looked at Oh with thankfulness. She laughed and explained.
You think I would be so kind? If it were not for classmate Peng Manjin putting in the money, I would never run an errand for you.
I searched for classmate Peng, hiding among the others, but only saw half of her face, a blushed face. In fact, I seldom talked to her. What she did for me that day touched me so much that until today I would never want to forget. I pretended to be troubled, remarking loudly,
How can I finish such a big bowl of wonton? I ate too much in the morning, and it's still not digested, that's why I had to go out to play basketball.
I took the bowl and ran quickly, but not so quickly as to spill the wonton. I found a place with nobody, took a look around making sure no one was watching, then poured the wonton in my mouth and swallowed it down into my stomach like a hungry prisoner, cleaning the empty bowl a couple of times by means of my tongue afterwards. The problem was, after that I could not spare lunch to buy violin strings anymore, as I had to not only eat my lunch, but eat in front of the whole class, soundly, in order to prevent another wonton occurrence from happening. This matter soon spread to the ear of Ma Xiaomao. Hence, she gave me violin strings from time to time. What she gave were not cheap strings for students, but expensive, red star strings for professionals. Red star silver strings were the best China-made violin strings at that time. The odd thing was, the look-new strings were all broken and needed to be knotted before use. Ma could not stand my incessant inquiring, and finally told me the secret. Her little friend named Duguo went into the Changsha City Opera, and at her request, Duguo kept all broken strings for Ma. Besides God, only Dugwa knew if those strings broke naturally or with some help. From then, I went to see Dugwa very often. Although he was much younger than I, he was half a head taller. The excuses for visiting him began with begging for strings and gradually changed to indirectly learning his violin performing technique. Although I pursued my violin studies with Teacher Lee, after getting to know Dugwa, I somehow started to feel that Teacher Lee's method was good for beginners but maybe not the best for people who wish to be professionals. Dugwa was already a member of the professionals. He was taught and closely watched by his professional violin teacher, therefore he progressed very quickly. My trick of learning from him indirectly was, every time I went to see him I would ask for a piece of blank score paper. I would then hand copy the violin exercise he was working on. During my hand copying I always paid special attention to his teacher's pencil marks, the bowing, fingering, musical expression or technique hint, etc. After the copy was done I would always request that Dugwa play it a couple of times for me, claiming that I was checking my hand-copied notes for mistakes. The rest was easy. I went back home and would practice, twice or many more times harder than Dugwa, as I believed. Evidently, my violin playing progress was very obvious during this period. Though I appeared to be very friendly to Dugwa, I was truly envious of him. I envied his work and study environment, but most of all his Gold Bell brand violin that was worth 400 renminbi, when the average monthly wage was 40 renminbi. Each time I saw the tiger-figured maple back of his violin, I couldn't stop the slobber from dropping out of my mouth. One day I was in Dugwa's room hand-copying Mozart's No. 3 Violin Concerto. When I had just gotten started, the leader of the orchestra called Dugwa out.
"I'll lock the door from the outside. Make no noise. Nobody knows you're here. Take your time."
I copied, rested, and copied. When I finished the first movement of the concerto, it was time for me to go home, but I couldn't. Dugwa was still not back. I was tired and started to doze off. Though I wasn't even 15 yet, I was aware that it was rude to fall asleep in another person's bed. In order to stay awake, I paced back and forth inside his little room. It was then envy came into my eyes. The twilight through the curtain gap shone on that 4th grade gold bell, making it look like a pile of gold, or maybe more like a beautiful girl with tenderness and affection, winking at me. I could no longer resist my desire. Gradually I got closer to her temptation. I touched her neck, causing the gold bell to ring. That made me insane. I took the bow out from the case. When the bow touched the violin, the sound brought me to Wonderland. From Dugwa's room, a crippled Mozart Violin Concerto No. 3 sounded. At exact the high climax of my self-satisfaction, a knock on the door, bang bang, woke me up. Then I heard a man's voice.
"Dugwa, your rhythm today is terrible. You need more attention."
I immediately stopped playing and kept quiet as Dugwa had asked me to. But the voice did not give up.
"How did you lock yourself in? Is there someone pulling your legs?"
I still kept quiet as I promised Dugwa. Another woman's voice from a distance answered for me.
"Dugwa's not in. He's out with all the other students. He won't be back until 5 p.m.
The man's voice replied to the woman's voice.
"If Dugwa's not in, who's playing? A ghost? I heard the violin."
"That's impossible."
A woman's voice again.
"Don't tell me your conductor has a hearing problem."
Man's voice.
"Who could that be?" "Who? If you give no answer, we will call the security section."
"Yes, we will."
Both voices. I had no choice but to tell them I was a friend of Dugua, the one that comes very often.
All right, please open the window.
The woman indicated. The window opened, a young lady and a man in his 30s appeared to me.
This is Teacher Xiao, the conductor of our opera, and my name is Huang. I'm Dugua's violin teacher.
Teacher Huang's friendly face relaxed me very much. I politely greeted.
Nin hao, Teacher Huang and Teacher Xiao.
Huang nodded her head and asked me with an affable smile.
Conductor Xiao said you were playing the violin. Could you play it again, for us?
Hearing that request, plus Xiao's extraordinarily serious face, my relaxed nerves tensed again. I faltered.
Could I play something else instead of the Mozart I just tried?
So, I played The Beautiful Rosemary by Chrysler that I felt adept at as I had learned it from Teacher Lee. However, Xiao walked away before I finished my performance. Thank God Huang didn't leave, instead she started to show me the more correct way of holding the violin. Meanwhile, Dugua returned back. Huang left her last words to me.
You are a young man full of potential. But do watch your rhythm when you play.
Dugua heard what happened when he was away, he said.
I was about to talk to my teacher Huang about you. Rumor has it our opera will recruit new violin students sometime soon.
Immediately my mood helicoptered and repeatedly I begged him to go and ask Teacher Huang and Xiao, ask what they thought about me and my violin playing, to see if I had any chance. After about 10 minutes Dugua came back again.
How was it? What did they say about me?
I was too impatient to wait. Dugua smiled but made no comment.
Don't hold me in suspense, please. I really can't wait any longer.
I begged him.
It's not that I am holding you in suspense. It is that I'm afraid you would be hurt to hear it.
Nothing can hurt me. Say it now.
I pressed on him physically.
All right. It is you who forced me. You face the consequence.
Dugua paused and said,
Our conductor Xiao said you've got some bad amateur habits, for example bad rhythm, therefore to train you to be a professional violinist would not be easy.
What?
Dugua's words not only hurt me, but also shocked me, like throwing an atomic bomb into my mouth.
He said that I've got some amateur habits and not good at rhythm.
I roared. Dugua's face became longer.
I told you that you would be hurt, but you didn't want to believe me.
Hurt? Ha ha ha, no, I'm not hurt. Go to tell that man, say to be free in rhythm is my style, and I am an amateur and happy to stay an amateur.
I made myself an exit to escape from the awkwardness and got out of Dugua's room. I was in such an upset state that I forgot the Mozart Concerto No. 3 I'd spent the whole afternoon hand copying. Isn't it true that in everyday life, it is all right for us to grow too tall, too short, too fat, too skinny, or too big a nose, eyes too small, as far as nobody points it out? But if someone does point it out, even though a fact, our feelings would be hurt. Back home, Mother's scolding for being late getting home was a fruitless labor. My mind was stuffed with Conductor Zhao's words. I was tossing and turning all night until I finally got up and wrote a very emotional letter. The next afternoon, as soon as my school was over, I went to Changsha Opera again. This time I did not go into Dugua's room but knocked at his window. Dugua opened his window.
You forgot your music notes.
He passed them to me. I took the notes with one hand and handed the letter to him with the other.
Do me a favor. Hand it to that Xiao, that man who beats time in your orchestra.
Dugua looked curious and worried.
May I take a look?
Sure, go ahead.
I encouraged him. Dugua opened the letter and read.
I swear to you that someday I will become the #1 violinist in all of Changsha City. By then you will say I am a professional. When I play the solo in my style, you will have to leave your orchestra, crawling and rolling to follow my rhythm.
Dugwa stopped reading, as he could not help laughing.
Nine, brother.
Nine Brother is my Chinese nickname, and now my pen name.
You are amazing. Even though one day you might become the #1, how can you say that, especially now? Aren't you afraid to be thought of as conceited and arrogant?
That's what I am, conceited and arrogant, extremely. I not only want to be the #1 in Changsha, but also #1 in the whole Hunan province.
There was confidence in my provocative tone, but deep beneath that confidence was an equal inferiority complex. Dugwa's window was shut. After that, I stopped going to Changsha Opera begging for broken strings and hand-copying music notes. Nevertheless, Conductor Zhao's words continued to stimulate me, functioning as an everlasting power and energy, pushing me forward on my road to be a professional violinist.